Good morning, everyone who's joined us here this morning, either in person or through a live stream. My name is Anni Mäkitalo. I am the Marketing and Community Manager here at Women in Tech Finland, and I'm very happy to be hosting this event that we've organized together with our long-term partner, Accenture. We recently collaborated on a research study together with Accenture, Mimmit, Kooda, and Tekniikan Akateemiset, where our goal was to better understand what motivates women to study tech, how inclusive they consider their school cultures, and how we could encourage more women to study tech. Today, we will present some of the key findings of that research and talk about the necessary future actions as well. As we have a very action-packed hour ahead of us, I would love to get started. First, let's welcome on stage Kaisa Seppo, who is a Sales Associate Director at Accenture. Kaisa will first go through some of the main findings and then moderate a Q&A chat with two of our experts. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, good morning, everybody. So, as Anni said, Mimmit, Kooda, Tekniikan Akateemiset Tech, Women in Tech Finland and Accenture set out to find answers to these questions by conducting joint survey during May and April 2022. The objective of the survey was to understand what motivates women to study technology, how inclusive is the culture at their school, and how do tech women view their future career opportunities. The target group of the survey was women who study technology, with a focus on IT-related subjects in Finland, including those who are changing careers. Altogether, we got 672 female students of the tech responded to the survey. Some highlights of our study. The most staggering data point here would probably be that 35% of the surveyed women said that no one had encouraged them to study tech. Around 20% were encouraged to study tech by their families and friends. Only 7% received guidance from their student counselors. The results overall show that the women who choose to study tech are very driven and have independently decided this is a career they want to pursue. What drove women to study tech were their own interests and abundance of well-paid jobs ahead of them. The survey clearly shows that women are very motivated and expect to complete their studies. They feel good about their studies overall, but clearly work still needs to be done to ensure that no one feels left out, as only 37% of the respondents felt like that's already in place. Also, 40% still feel like some inappropriate behavior or comments are tolerated, meaning they don't feel completely safe environment. 78% of women feel they will have a career in tech, and 70% view leadership position as an option for them. But 76% still feels the industry favors men. They're motivated by expectations of a good salary and good work-life balance, along with having varied tasks at work. So, what can we do to make the change happen? From these results, we can draw a few conclusions. First thing would be to make women more aware of the possibilities from early on. That means having role models, making career paths more visible, and for schools to encourage studying tech. Secondly, we should ensure that the study culture is inclusive and all feel sense of belonging. And then thirdly, we should ensure that the tech industry has a good work-life balance, equality and meaningful work, and then actively promote these matters. Next, we are going to have a Q&A. Please, Pia and Touko, would you come on stage? So, could you please introduce yourselves?
Yes, good morning. I'm Touko Apelahti. I come from Technology Industries Finland. And there I'm a senior advisor for higher education policy.
Thank you. And Pia.
Hello, good morning. My name is Pia Erkinheimo. I work at the Finnish Climate Fund, and my responsibility is as part of my leadership team membership to take care of deal flow and customer relationships.
Thank you. Very good. So this Q&A is a deep dive into the results. Together with our experts, we will look specifically at why and how women choose to study tech and how they are finding their studies. Our panel later on will bring you some more thoughts and insights on the main findings and also explore from different aspects what could be done to improve the situation. So first question for both of you. What do you think was the most striking result or most surprising result of these, what we found out?
Well, if I may start, I still feel that there is so much to be done. So that puts me think. Of course, I was kind of, as an ex-researcher, I was kind of thinking how the questions were formulated and positioned. But nevertheless, at Women in Tech, which I'm happy to be one of the 5 co-founders already, some almost 9 years ago, I believe. So we felt the urgency. We didn't have any factor and no data whatsoever. But having said so, there is work to be done, not only. And we would like to emphasize this, that not only in the field of diversity between genders, but inclusiveness as of a whole.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, as a good example of that is I was surprised by the very low amount of students who actually had been encouraged by teachers or by study counselors to choose technology. And you have to keep in mind that this number was from students who had actually chosen technology. So if you would survey the whole female student population, how many even had been given the thought that is technology a field for you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So Touko, Technology Industries Finland has also recently analyzed women choosing to study tech. Do these results that you got actually correlate with what we found here?
Yeah, there are similarities. We had a look, kind of a deep dive to the statistics of female who choose technology, and overall there's a positive trend. And more women are choosing technology, and in all fields of technology, the numbers are rising. But if you look at the share of female students, the share is getting higher in the fields of technology where it already was high. So I think this reflects back to your results that representation matters, role models matter, and inclusive cultures matter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So Pia, Lappeenranta University is strong in tech. How do you see university's role in supporting gender diversity, and what are the actions to support women to choose tech?
In my previous experience as a woman in tech kind of activist, we did also surveys, and those we learned that what especially interests women in tech are in the field of education, so edtech, climate and environmental tech, and med and health tech. So if one could build on the kind of the story of inviting women to solve wicked problems, for example, in these fields. So there is actually, it looked like that there was actually a national, kind of a natural pull towards these topics where technology is part of the solution. So that could be one way of kind of expressing that hey, these things are solvable, of course, with all other fields of science, but also the applied science and technology as such work on these very important matters. And these resonated, according to some earlier surveys, with audience, with women who would have some interest towards tech. So I think these could emphasize. And then it's about vocabulary. Of course, how do we speak about technology as a whole? I believe here are companies that have been telling just to how to formulate a job ad that would be in the field of technology, but by using different words that would actually lock more female applicants to look for and search and apply for that particular job. So there are many things to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, as we talked already here, the results are some of many factors, from schools to prejudices of the industry itself. What do you think are the most critical stakeholders and the actions they should take in ensuring women to see tech as a viable option? So stakeholders and actions.
Well, how I see it as a common let's say, challenge or task. And we have to get companies, the whole educational system, and then also the labor unions to work together. And I think there's a lot of good action already taking place. For example, my organization, we are doing science education from the primary, from the first class, to kind of introduce technology topics and kind of, well, light that spark from there on. And then Women in Tech is a great example of a network that crosses these boundaries. But what I'd like to see more is maybe stronger leadership on these issues, especially in the educational institutions. I would like to see more clearer goals with real numbers, real actions, and also real consequences if the numbers are not met or if the goals are met, also positive side. So as an example, who would be the first professor to say that I am going to build a mechanical engineering program with a female majority?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good kind of a way to make a kind of a target and so. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, and I have been surprised that the tutoring and counseling in the upper secondary school, or so high school, at least there's example of 2 schools in Helsinki, but still I've been actually quite disappointed when I've been discussing with my teenagers at home that what kind of guidance have your kind of counselors at school provided you with, and then there is one-on-one consultation, and now during pandemic you had good access via a personal one-on-one access via digitalization, but still so this is not very scientific, but at least I was surprised how old-fashioned thinking in both schools, the counselor or opinto-ohjaaja, so the tutor, who would be supporting, what to do next after the high school. So what would be then the next steps? So yes, talking about it, that the alternatives are for both genders or all genders. I think that would be a message also if it would come, strengthened from the school.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So maybe this would be the most important question, I would say. So what would you say to a woman considering to study tech? How would you encourage them, or would you? And this is of course very interesting for our audience here and on the live stream. So what were the words of encouragement for all of us?
I might steal for one comment this airtime now, and then I get back to you.
Yeah.
When we talk about women in technology, it doesn't only mean that in the technological field there are women who has a technical background. Because in technology we need also designers, educationalists, social sciences, philosophers, we need medical understanding, we need humanists, we need all types of education. So women could bring the diversity of educational background to technology industry as a whole. So it's not kind of a mandatory for any one of us, be it women or men or something else, to only have a technological background when entering to the world of technology, because we need their other type of thinking as well. So this is kind of one message that we have also had in Women in Tech Finland. So tech is not only for tech students, but now we, of course, need women in technology studies as well. And what would be the how would I encourage? So I would go from the person's kind of an inner call and ask that, what are you interested in? And then she would share hopefully that with me, and then I would say that, have you ever thought that that challenge or that mission can be fulfilled with the help of technology? And then, take the discussion further. So kind of go with the motivation, and then talk through that, hey, that with the help of technology, I believe that we can even solve climate change. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. Very good. What about you, Touko?
Yeah.
Words of encouragement.
Yeah, I would build on the same idea that there are so versatile roles available in tech this day. And if you choose the field of technology, then also in the kind of borderline between tech and other fields, there are more and more of these connections. So whatever is your passion, what do you want to change in the world, you can do it with technology, together with technology. And from that point and from the results that we got here, that don't mind if the people around you don't encourage you. Find the people who do, and don't let the kind of old stereotypes hold you back.
Yeah, that's true. I was super delighted to see the results, as the women who actually choose to study tech are very driven and see leadership positions as an option for them, and they succeed well in their studies. So hey, they have the inspire and motivation to actually succeed very well. So that's very, very delightful of these results. I'm looking at the clock here. Seems that we have maybe some time for a question. If we have here in the audience, would you have anything you would like to ask from Pia and Touko? Yes, please.
So, Touko, so technology and teollisuus is of course looking at these as well. So what type of actions are you taking now based on your recent kind of studies into this topic as well? So what's on your agenda?
And as I think it won't be hearing on the stream, so what are the actions that Technologia Teollisuus is actually taking now after these results that you have already gotten? So yes, that was the question.
Yeah, Technology Industries Finland, I already mentioned that we are doing this first grader support. We also are doing, we have a great program called MyTech, where we bring students to companies, to visit companies from primary education, from secondary education. And also we have another team who looks more at the inclusiveness and kind of development of the work cultures. We have actually an ongoing project with upcoming webinars to companies on how to build inclusive cultures at work.
That's very good. What about any other questions here from the audience? Yes, please, there. There comes a mic. Yeah, good, thank you.
How potential do you see this TET training period that the 8th and 9th graders have? So would that be something that would help students to kind of see how it is actually to work in these companies? And do you happen to know that how common it is to have these TET period training students in the companies?
Yeah, good. Pia.
My sample of 2 here in Helsinki. Yes, this TET would be excellent. However, I think that it works in a way that when you're a parent, you kind of help quite a lot your children to find the TET practicing environment. And then it's more like a bit of kind of a luck and what kind of connections you might have. So. Of course, the guidance from your parents and your family, takes you to some point, and then, but maybe it's more random, like that. You end up in your godfather's or mother's or job place or somewhere around, and that may not bring diversity. So maybe that could be, more systematic. I don't know, maybe. So that would be like that. That's, I mean, it's a reality, to be honest. But that would be an excellent resource for sure.
To add to that, I think it's also for companies important to actually think what the young people who are coming to your company for those few days, what they actually get to see, what they get to do, so that it's not only that they actually get an inspiring experience out of those days.
Yeah, it's very good. I saw also one hand there. Maybe there was other question. Yes, please.
My question is, I come from the University of Applied Sciences in Häme University in Häme, and I'm kind of thinking, and what could we bring home from here, kind of a practical recommendations of what we could do in our field to develop further inclusive kind of study environment for also women. This is something that we are wondering quite a lot about, and any practical or advice would be welcome. Thank you.
Good question. Yes, Pia.
I've been following at Helsingin Sanomat. There is kind of a university correspondent writing articles, and also based on this survey, I think that what in campus areas, what in colleges, in the physical location as virtual location, to bring the build up on the safety of student life. And that diversity can also be kind of celebrated there, and that there is no awkward situation, as there were quite alarming results in this survey telling that that's not necessarily the case, and that kind of a student, technology student type of student life heritage is really masculine. I know I've been to Otaniemi, so, and I recall, laughing as a woman for jokes which are really humiliating, starting from the color of the hair, and just to say no, zero tolerance for that kind of heritage to go further. I think that would be something that, and it has actually been studied quite recently. But I think this was also the results of this survey was quite alarming. I mean, how can this be in the 21st century, 2020s in Finland? That the girls, women students are not feeling safe everywhere, and the culture of student culture, which has to be flourishing, and the humor, and that's why we always love the period of time when we can be full-time students or full-time students. So I think how could we just say no to that kind of thinking, that kind of tolerance? No, zero tolerance for any gender biased humor.
And if I build on that, I said earlier that I'd like to see more leadership around this and more clear goals. And what I mean is not only goals around diversity, but also around inclusion, inclusive culture. So these kind of indicators, these kind of surveys should be a part of your quality management system. That if you get this kind of message about things that you say that you don't tolerate, what actually happens after that? Is it as serious as if your students don't pass their courses and you are failing on the kind of funding indicators? Do you take these matters as seriously as those or not?
That's true.
And university sponsors are starting looking into this very much. Alumni and also kind of institutional donators. These are key performance indicators for those.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, one more question from the audience.
Okay, I would just like to add to the kind of, it's not only about the student culture, but also about the staff, the professors, the teachers and all of that. So it's not only the student culture that needs to change, but it's also the kind of professors and management. That's my addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very good. Any more questions from the audience? Yes, please, there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I was wondering in the survey whether the demographics of the girls were taken into account, because when we're talking about girls, we're talking about a very, very diverse group. And kind of building on that, how do we include girls that are pushed to the margins in our society? So how can we foster this intersectional approach as well when it comes to enhancing the inclusiveness of women and girls in technology?
What would you say?
Well, I think actually that is something that the student by themselves, when they bring their culture and they change. I mean, they change the university when they enter to the student life. I think that students have always been also active, student activist and radicalism, and there I think that it's a privilege that to that academic and that student that studying and research community, you get every year new brains, new blood. I mean. It's a very fascinating place to work with. I have been working as a researcher as well because it's renewing all the time. So I definitely don't have any good answer, but and this very, very gentle, delicate, and extremely important matter. The subject matter experts are joining to the community and renewing. So then the university, with its old-fashioned academic formula, history and traditions, it still renews itself all the time a bit. So, but not the really good how bring it on. Every year we get smarter and smarter students and younger. And
more diverse people also.
Of course, that matter. Matter. Yeah.
What about you?
I think at just one point that in Finland we are not that good in accepting feedback about racism. So that's one thing that universities and companies and everyone in Finland, we should be more humble and be thankful for the feedback that we get from people who are racialized in our society. That's one example. And this kind of humbleness towards all minorities and looking beyond averages in your data, in your feedback collection.
Yeah, I think that's very good and a nice way to sum up the discussion. So So taking into consideration of all and seeing the diversity also in women and other genders. So that's very, very good. Yeah. Thank you, Pia and Touko. And now you can take your seat there. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well, Kaisa.
Thank you. Very good. Now I would like to welcome Nea here, and we will move on with our program and into the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, my name is Nea Höynälä. I'm the communications lead at Inclusive, and we just had a fascinating Q&A and got an insight into the results of the survey. So what's more topical than to jump right into that even more and discover ways in how we can encourage women into the tech field. So please, let's give a hand to our panelists. Before we jump into all the good stuff, let's introduce our panelists. We can take it away with you first.
Hi, my name is Marja Hyvärilä and I'm a Master's of Science in Technology as well, and I am the HR lead of Accenture Finland, having in my responsibility the inclusion and diversity agenda in Finland.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Pauliina Meskanen. I'm the founder of Survival Tech Club, a climate tech consultancy and a newsletter on deep tech, climate solutions and startups. And relevant also to this discussion is that I recently, just last year, graduated as Master of Science from Aalto University, majoring in industrial engineering and management. So we'll be bringing that perspective to this discussion.
Hi everyone, my name is Teemu Ruus. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Helsinki. And perhaps relevant to this event, I'm the lead instructor of the Elements of AI online course, which tries to make AI, artificial intelligence, and technology accessible to all without having to, let's say, enter universities.
Thank you. As we can see, we have a very diverse lineup, everyone bringing their own background and own perspective, so we will have a very fruitful conversation for sure. So let's jump right in. Then I would like you to start and maybe share what of these survey findings stood out to you, what was surprising?
I think I agree on the previous panelists and the moderator in pointing out the fact that so little support and encouragement to girls to pursue tech careers was available, especially from schools. So that was kind of very striking. Of course, like I don't know how many men receive encouragement to pursue tech careers, but I'm assuming it's more than 37%. So I think that definitely is something that we should fix, and everybody can affect that statistic at home and encourage their family members or their goddaughters or friends, and to consider tech as a career. So that was the one thing that stood out for me, at least.
Absolutely. Do either one of you want to build on that? What struck you out of those results?
Yeah, I was fascinated and going into my young self when I kind of started to picture this tech female student there, of all the kind of non-encouragement and seeing the obstacles that will come into my career and still going there, kind in this mode that, I'm still gonna do that. And that made me also sad because I can relate to those feelings. It's 25 years ago when I was in this decision point, and I really hoped that people wouldn't have to do that decision with those things in mind, and they are still there. And now in my role, I'm really on the mission of busting these myths what we have from the tech and how wonderful careers we can offer for everybody in technology.
Pauliina, what about you? What struck you out of these findings?
Yeah, I have to say, I wasn't necessarily surprised by any of the facts that came out from the survey. But what's sad and shocking still, even though I have been studying and living in that very masculine student culture, is that we still have 40% of female students who think that it is inclusive, or it's not. But anyways, like it's and 60% of the female students think that there's zero tolerance for harassment. That's absolutely it's absolutely terrible in my opinion. Technology and engineering is for everybody, and the culture and the student culture really should support that.
You're 100% right there. So I want you to continue actually. So you are a recent graduate. So maybe you can now speak on whether these findings are in line with your own experiences. And if you're comfortable, you can share some of those experiences. Did somebody encourage you to study tech?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the lucky position that belonging to that 20% of the female students who received a very strong encouragement from home to go study engineering and tech. My dad really highly sees and values physics, and I still remember how we would have this a little sledge, a sled that you use when sliding down hills during the winter, and he would give me 2 magnets and say hey, let's make this flying, figure it out, and I would be absolutely excited about this challenge. Also, my mom was super supportive to help me study the math, and also my sister has graduated as a Master of Science. So I was lucky, but not everybody has that support, and that's why I think that the student counselors should have a stronger encouragement and support for the young girls.
Well, it's lovely to hear that you've got the support, but unfortunately not all women are as lucky as you have. So you talked about study counselors being important. So that's why then you're the natural transition here, because you come from the educational background. You have a long career in education in the tech field. So what do you think is the role of professors, teachers, study counselors, and the educational institutions in general?
Well, it's a massive role, obviously, that Pia was referring to the fact, and also Pauliina, that having such a strong role for families and relatives and your background is not that's not a very equal thing, because not everybody has that support. So that I think, especially in a country like Finland, we value equality and the kind of public support for everybody's opportunities to be equal. And I think that's especially why schools, even preschools and daycare places, they have a role in giving role models and encouraging and and then when you reach let's say university level or other sort of tertiary education institutions, at that point people usually have made some career choices. And at that point, the role is more avoid disencouraging people to complete their studies and make sure that, for instance, there was a good question about the avoiding harassment and zero tolerance to any discrimination. How can we do as institutions something about that? And for that, I'd like to sort of give a very simple policy. Just create your no tolerance to discrimination policy or guidelines, and then just post them on the wall. That's a very simple thing. That's what we did in Kumpula campus at the University of Helsinki, and that has sort of made a big impact, I think. It's not somewhere on the internet or somewhere on long sort of policy documents somewhere for those who want to pursue and find that information, but it should be sort of posted with big bold letters on the wall, and that's a very simple thing. And then to stick to those rules, obviously.
Wow, wonderful, very tangible tips, and also answering some of the questions we had before. So this is already getting off to a good start. What about you, Marja? I know Accenture is doing quite a bit to advance diversity and inclusion in the tech field. So organizations in general have a massive role to play, but what do you think is in particular, what should organizations do?
Now, of course, it starts from the fact that you need to start living it internally within your company first, and setting up the policy, zero tolerance for discrimination, speaking up culture. If we talk about the conduct count. But then, of course, within HR, it comes to the processes of salaries, promotions, recruitment. Those all need to be looked through from the lens of gender. Gender is easy because, you know, everyone has a gender in Finland. And then when it comes to more delicate areas, it's a bit more difficult as an HR is not backtracking, you know, these facts. So it's more about cultural work. But then, of course, the next step, which why I'm here sitting, is to talk about this externally, that we you know, what kind of good work we are doing. We are actually receiving salary parity. We are receiving, you know, same amount of promotions for female and males. We have female leaders, and I can bring them to the spotlight. And thank for the wonderful team who has worked behind this event. This is what we want to do.
Wonderful insights. Organizations clearly can do so much in so many different processes and practices. So really practical tips from all of you. I think this really encompasses how this is an issue that should be tackled from various perspectives. So the organizational, the educational side, as well as our family and relatives and our connections can all play a very significant role. So we talked already through some like tangible tips that we can all do, but I want to come back to Kaisa's slide number 3. So if you don't remember what that was, I can give you a little refresher. So that was about the unequal power dynamics in the tech field. So 76% of women who answered the survey felt that the tech field still favors men. So I would start with you, Teemu, because you are a male. So have you seen this manifest?
I was thinking about this when I was reading through the results in the report, and I have to admit that that is very hard for me to point out that. And then I was thinking, like, well, is there something wrong with the research, or maybe it is something that I'm likely to have a kind of a blind spot on. Like, obviously, I would not experience discrimination, and you know, it's very human, I suppose, that when I get a promotion, I will always attribute that to my own excellence, right? So I would not think that I was maybe sort of giving a preferential treatment. So I think that's probably more like it, and that's more close to the truth. You know, as a scientist, you know, I sort of tend to trust research and put higher value on that than anecdotal evidence that is very subjective. So I guess, you know, as guys, as men, as sort of somehow like the majority members, we tend to be a little bit blind to these issues, and we need to sort of sharpen our eye on the matter and then listen to the people that have actually studied and looked into the matter without sort of trying to sort of, I know somebody pointed out that we're a little bit sort of too resistant and too defensive about, let's say, discrimination being pointed out, and I think we need to sort of step up on that and be more receptive and admit that, okay, well, you know, the research says that, so let's think how we can get around it.
Thank you for sharing, and even that is a very valuable insight, and it shows how we have these blind spots and like unconscious biases, which makes it so hard to kind of tackle these issues. Moving on to you, Pauliina, have you observed this favoritism, and what do you think should be done?
Yeah, I definitely do think that it is very strongly in place, technology, and also the startup ecosystem that is very tech-oriented. It's a very masculine, and it favors masculine behavior. For example, if I, for example, reflect back of how I was in high school, how I'm now, 7-8 years after, I see that I've sort of adapted to the culture and also adopted some of the behavior that is typically more like male or masculine. It's like how you sit or just take space, or you just be more aggressive and like assertive and determined of what you want to say. And in order to get your point heard, and you're being treated as equal and taken seriously. And it shouldn't be like that. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, like tech should be for everybody, but it is very masculine. So I think that right now, the people, and it's not only women, but also men who are not like very stereotypically like masculine, have to adapt to that in order to progress and in order to succeed in that. Right now it feels very natural for me, but and I love tech and I love climate technologies and working with startups. That's what I love, but it shouldn't be like that. And I do think that it's unfortunately not going to change until we get more female representation to the field.
Wonderful answer. Yeah, definitely. It's very hard to break down that favoritism because, if you don't have those role models there, it's very hard to get in and have that kind of representation of what you could be, and that you don't have to tap into these masculine roles if you don't want to. You can, of course, but it's not mandatory. Maria, what about you? What's your take? Do you think that there is favoritism, for example, in the organizational side of tech?
No, well, this is a topic that we are talking a lot. So first of all, how we have started to tackle is to really get into the theory of the unconscious bias, that it's not something that you necessarily experience because it's unconscious, and learning that and waking up the entire organization to that. We all have unconscious bias and we need to be conscious in order to break that. So that's the deep work which we are doing. And the other side effect that comes when you start systematically to do this work and change the gender mix from 20 to the 40s and 50s is that, are the male gonna suffer in this journey? And this is a really delicate question. I mean, if, we need to do systematically changes and it's a numbers work a lot. You secure this equal percentage-wise amount of seats here and there, and you can't avoid of those questions that, do the male get less opportunities now? Because, we need, yeah. But I think to change this game, because that was the sad news for me that people still feel is to really systematically bring the numbers closer to the 40s. Because when you kind of go over to the 40%, 60%, the culture actually starts to change because there is a balance. There starts to be a balance. And I've seen a journey of 15 years at Accenture from this suit company, male company, to this hooded, whatever, how do you gonna dress, company. But it kind of, you always talk, it's so difficult to change culture, but the culture change when you change the mix of the people. And they come hand by hand. And it's such a delightful thing to be in this company now, because you were telling, I need to adapt this male and get these male behaviors. But it's actually what I've now heard that, we're learning from each other. And, we are encouraging male to drop down that aggressivity. It's not a virtue to be an aggressive male, but a compassionate, empathetic leader. And when you get to that, there's so much to learn both sides. Someone needs to learn to be a bit more space-taking, but someone needs to learn to sort of slow down and, let the space for people.
Wow, so fascinating. It's so lovely to hear that Accenture has been on this journey and seen this kind of switch and are constantly tackling these unconscious biases and these power structures. But obviously it's not a walk in the park. It's not easy by any means. Did either of you want to kind of add on to this? Is there anything else that we can do to tackle this favoritism?
Well, maybe it's not exactly on the favoritism, but maybe sort of to rewind and go back to the encouragement, so the beginning of the path, so that we get more people, get more role models. I just wanted to sort of point out and share that what was really interesting to me when we did the Elements of AI course, which already has hundreds of thousands of signups, was that when we designed the course, we didn't really sort of start by saying, okay, let's do a girls, AI course or anything like that. We didn't sort of put pink unicorns or flowers or any, whatever stereotypically girly things there. But we just instead wanted to drop the kind of very stereotypically male thing. So we didn't want to put a black background with green, font and all kinds of science fiction tropes there. And we sort of, only by the virtue of dropping those, we actually have more than 50% female users on the course, at least in Nordic countries, and I think more or less overall globally as well. So it was kind of you wouldn't expect that, okay, you're doing a very sort of technology-oriented course. Typically they have something like 10%, 15% female users. And then we just did this very simple thing, try to sort of get rid of the very stereotypically masculine ideas of having a male engineer, tweaking a spaceship or something as the application, and then just sort of doing it very, very sort of real world relevant point of view. And that changed. And it shows that everybody's interested in technology. It's just that some of us are pushed away. At least that's the sort of lesson that I took from that.
That's amazing. And it's really cool to see that it's really small things that we can all do. It doesn't have to be this huge organizational change or educational change, or everyone in your family has to automatically start faking that they're into tech. It's small things that make all of the difference. So we've already talked about that there's a lot of practical and tangible things we can all do to tackle these issues, and I want us to end on a positive note. So we have a crowd here and on the live stream full of promising tech talent and members of organizations who can do things to advance these topics. So what are some final words you would like to leave them on? Like, what can we do to encourage women in tech? Your final takes.
Yeah, well, I can start. I would say the same what Pia said earlier during her panel of the Q&A. I would really highlight the social challenges that technology has a big role to play. Like, for example, we are facing this existential crisis. There's no question about it. We have the climate crisis, we have biodiversity crisis, and it brings, at least to me, a lot of meaningfulness in my life and in my work when I can say that every day when I'm working, I am tackling one of the most existential issues of our humankind. I'm saving the humankind so that we can all live, and our children and grandchildren can also live on this planet after 100 years. And it brings a lot of joy and meaningfulness. So that's what I would underline. It's the technology, amazing tool, and it is for everybody, honestly. Just come and join.
Wonderful, I love that. Maria, would you want to add?
Yeah, I think echoing that, I would like to say, digitalization is passing through the entire society, and when we are creating these services, we need the entire representation of the society to be there so that they can best serve all of us. So that's a responsibility that we all need to take. And then for the sort of changing the culture, speaking up is something which I encourage for everyone. And it doesn't need to be sort of dramatic claim afterwards, I heard this and that. When you hear the slightest thing, you can go like, oh, this didn't feel good. What did you mean by saying this? I know it's difficult. It's very difficult, but I want to encourage all of us to kind of, without any massive aggression or making an issue, in that moment when you feel that this wasn't really appropriate, speak up and tell the other one, because most likely the person didn't do it intentionally.
I can definitely attest to that these microaggressions or stereotypes, for example, saying oh, you're pretty good at coding for a girl. You might think it's a compliment, but at the end of the day, because it's, wrapped in that stereotype, it can come across hurtful. So we can, if nobody says anything to the person who says this comment, we can never kind of tackle those, comments and hurtful comments in that. Because small comments like this over time do influence the culture, whether that's at work or when you're studying. So that's very valuable advice, to speak up, even though it can be daunting at times. Then what about you?
No, well, I'd just like to, what she said, times two. I think both were very sort of remarkable, accurate comments, and this speaking up, I've got experiences myself that I've since now at the campus we have this code of conduct, and it sort of explicitly says sort of zero tolerance. So very sort of small things they pile up, and one should sort of stand up and say, okay, not in public. Like public shaming is not like, I wouldn't, as a professor, when I'm giving a lecture and somebody sort of says something inappropriate, I wouldn't sort of say, okay, this person said something very bad, but I would sort of go to them later and say that this might not be the thing to say. And 100% of the times that I've done that, it's been a very sort of constructive discussion, and I think we've all agreed that that was not the thing to say at that time and that place. So I think that's a simple thing again that we can do. And then what Pauliina said about like, okay, that was a very good sort of speech, like everybody's welcome and everything. I think that should be made into a snippet and played as a tietoisku that we used to have in the TV, these snippets. And I think that's sort of to complement the encouragement of the individual to go out and pursue tech career. I think of course we who are kind of inside the field already, the insiders, we should be sort of welcoming, and that's again something that organizations have a huge role in, and let's not like mess it up when people come and say they come from different backgrounds, they're diverse in terms of their like character, but also from their educational background. So the tech industry really has shortage of experts, and not all of them really need to be having a higher education degree in tech. They can be, lawyers or doctors or nurses or whatever by training, but then, continuous education is a thing, and people can switch from one career to another. So we need to be welcoming to people from other educational backgrounds as well as other senses of the word backgrounds.
That's a wonderful note to end it on. We should welcome everyone, and we all have a role to play. So what a discussion. We've really got to tackle and dissect these survey findings and hear all of your perspectives and backgrounds and your valuable, tangible advice. So thank you for that. Let's please all give a hand to our wonderful panelists. We could take one audience question. Is there someone who's brave to speak up? We just talked about, being welcoming. Oh, there we go. Lovely.
I've heard a lot of comments that have caused me to react quietly, but there was a remark about when people come into tech, and I think we're still at the if. We need to get through the if before we get to the when. And then keep that theme all the way through the career, through the university and through the career. So one of these things is, who's making the promotion decisions? What's the makeup of that committee? Chances are it's 40 plus Finnish white men. So of course their unconscious bias is going to lean toward promoting another of the same. And when we look at feedback, if a woman does what you've done, what I have oftentimes done, behaved the same way, adapted to the environment. I mean, I was one of 40 in my engineering class. One woman, 40 students, they're all men. So you adapt, sure. But then when you get into the professional environment, there's things like 360 feedback, and all of the men in your team are now giving feedback. And your behavior is aggressive, not assertive. Your behavior is, you can go through the whole list. Has anybody thought of changing the words on those feedback questionnaires, or challenging every answer, that when someone puts the word aggressive, ask them, do you mean assertive? Do you mean speaks over others? Or do you mean strongly states an opinion? Like, to add to those, because words are important. Words are really important. And perhaps or has anybody looked at, because we have AI and we have all these automated systems, what's being done to do, what do you call it, invisible, or where you don't know who the people are that you're giving the feedback or making the decision on? Can't we do that with AI? Is there any work in that area?
Wonderful question. Thank you for sharing. We are running short on time, so.
Yeah, I want to quickly just go, we have been doing studies on exactly on talent discussion, which is the area where we evaluate people or have the career discussion. So yes, the wording, so we have deliberately limited that we should not take on sports and this kind of heroic wording. And then tapping that there is someone to looking at the unconscious buy-in and making an intervention if those are seen. We are up on the time, so.
But you can definitely continue networking and then discuss this further. As I said, this is a topic that requires everyone's effort, and it is very structural, and there's a lot we can all do. But thank you so much to the panelists, and thank you so much. Let's give them one more hand, and thank you for the question. And Anni, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you everyone who's joined us this morning. We had a great interactive crowd here in person. Hopefully everyone joining through live stream enjoyed as well. We are running out of time, so super quick. Thank you. Our research study findings are now on our website, so head to womenintech.fi for more. Thank you. Enjoy your day.